Being frugal can sometimes come with a stigma or a misunderstanding. Being frugal doesn't necessarily mean that we are struggling, although it can help if we are. But it is a way of life that prioritizes our values. I grew up in a household that did not have a lot of money and did not have the best money habits. My mother shopped frequently and was always buying something new, either for their house or clothes or something for my brother and I. And my dad always found money for alcohol. My brother and I did have a good childhood, but we were not raised, like many, with good financial habits. So when I was out on my own for the first time, I went crazy with any money that came my way. I didn't know what to do with it, so I spent it. I would shop for fun because that's what I grew up doing. Fast forward a few years, and I am living paycheck to paycheck on 3 minimum wage part-time jobs, in a ton of debt, and having to go to the payday loan just to make rent. At this point, I decided that something needed to change, so I went on what I called a wallet diet. I cut down all of my expenses as much as possible, picked up whatever hours I could, and I started paying down my debt. This was my first brush with frugal living, and it was so freeing. Being rich was always portrayed to me as having more things, or the shiniest car, or the biggest house. But after a brush with near bankruptcy and near homelessness, I realized that none of my things made me any richer. None of my new clothes could feed me if I couldn't afford groceries, and no amount of CDs were going to help me if I was homeless. This was the first time that I realized that being rich was more about security. At this point, I still had a lot to learn, but it was the beginning to my path to richness. Over the following years, I met my husband and we planned our wedding. I had heard how expensive weddings were, so I went about planning it and making as many things by hand as I could to save as much money as possible. Because to me, it wasn't a big flashy wedding that made it special. It was the people that were there to spend it with us. It was getting married itself. It wasn't about the venue or the dress or any of the other extras. Then once I had children, I realized how much I wanted to be home with them. The thought of putting them into daycare was unfathomable to me, and I realized more that I was trading time away from my children each time I bought something unnecessary or spent money I didn't need to. So after doing the math, I knew if I saved more money at home, that we could make it work on one income and I could stay at home with my children. Now I understood that frugality meant freedom, that being rich was having time with my family. So I quit my job and I homeschooled my children. I cut back on driving, I thrifted everything, and I focused on saving money on groceries. And the money I saved being frugal made almost a full paycheck. So I was able to redefine what I thought being rich meant. Being rich is having security and a place to call home, not the amount of things that you have in your home or how big your home is. Being rich is about having time with your family, being able to watch your kids grow up and be a part of their lives, not about fancy clothes or fancy cars or home decor. Being rich is the freedom to be able to live on one income to raise my children, and not about fake nails or going to the hair salon monthly. I now define being rich so much differently than what I used to. During COVID, my husband was home for 3 months, and we realized how nice it was for all of us to be home together, and we started a new goal of early retirement for him. Once again, being rich meant freedom, and being frugal was a tool in order for us to get there. Because every little bit that we save being frugal can be put towards our freedom, can be put towards our richness, and every little bit adds up to big things. Does this mean we sacrifice on certain things? Of course. We oftentimes go camping instead of doing a big trip. We rarely go out to eat. We don't do hair salons, among all the other things that we choose not to do because we value our freedom over these things. So instead of thinking it as sacrifice, we think about it as choosing our values, choosing what we want the most. Living a life paycheck to paycheck and with debt and bills constantly looming is a stressful and depressing situation. And the hard work and sacrifice of being frugal is 100% worth the feeling of relief. The long-term sacrifices of being frugal end up in the reward of a rich life and freedom. Frugality is so much more than just saving money here and there or buying cheap clothing. Frugality is a way of life that can lead to the most rewarding and rich experiences. When you value time with your family, being there to raise your children, frugality does not feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a tool for freedom. If you are on a frugal journey and looking for tips, please make sure you subscribe. I focus on frugal living, budget meals, and how to live on one income. There's a wonderful community of beautiful people here, and I would be so glad to have you here. Also, check out my frugal living playlist that I have linked here. It goes through a lot of videos on how you also can save money and live frugally. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.